When you were 12, did you always do as you were told? Well, I didn't, and it became a chilling nightmare. I lived in a vast subdivision of homes. It was called Levittown. Perhaps you have heard of it. It was the modern utopia of the 1950s, but it was just a sprawling suburb for our family. And as a 12-year-old, my mom had boundaries I wasn't to cross in neighborhoods I wasn't to go to for fear that I'd get lost. Halloween was no exception. I was going alone without my dad this year with just my best friend from school. We lived on the same street and our parents said the same thing. Be home at 9 and don't go beyond school. We did our neighborhood streets and collected a bunch of candy, but it was still early, not even 8. A group of kids told us the best candy was given out 3 streets past the school, and we could go with them. This sounded safe, and we weren't going alone, so why not? At the first house, a really lovely lady gave us the large Snickers. At the second, a man gave us giant Hershey's. We were delighted to be in this neighborhood. We had to pass a church with many bushes to get to the next house. As we passed, this guy in a Michael Myers costume popped out of the bushes and screamed at us. It gave us a huge shock, but then we laughed, thinking it was a Halloween prank and supposed to be some kind of haunted church or something. But Michael came right up to us, grabbed me by my arm and started pulling me back into the bushes. I was terrorized and my friend saw my dread. And even though he too was frightened, he jumped on the back of the guy and started to hammer him with his fists until the man let me go. Then we both bolted and got to the next house where many kids were, and we felt safe and thought that was the end of that freak. We did a few more places, decided we had enough trick-or-treating, and hoofed it for home. When I got inside, I told my mom the story of the creep who grabbed me at the church dressed in a costume. She said it had to be a prank that went a little too far, and speaking of going too far, I disobeyed the family rule, and my candy was off limits for 1 week. Around 10, there was a knock at the front door. My dad said it was late for a trick-or-treater, but took the tray with candy and went to answer the door. It wasn't a kid based on size, and he didn't say trick or treat. He just stood there. From the couch, I could see it was a man in a Michael Myers costume, and he was staring directly at me. My dad was confused and thought the man strange, but he handed him a candy bar and shut the door. I said nothing since I was already grounded for going too far and didn't want any more trouble, and the guy had left without making any kind of scene. But how did he find my house, and why did he come was really bothering me. The evening went by and we all went to bed. However, as everyone was asleep, I heard a knock at the door. I certainly wasn't going to answer it, so I woke my dad, telling him someone was at the door. He listened for a minute and said, "It's just your imagination," and he took me back to bed and shut my door. When everyone was asleep except for me, I heard a sound coming from the swing set in the backyard. It is my old swing set from when I was a little kid. It's rusty now, so when you swing on it, it makes a squeaking noise. I looked into the backyard and the man in Michael Myers' costume was swinging on the swing set. I could see him clear as day in the moonlight, and he was staring back at me in my bedroom window. My blood drained from my head as my heart nearly stopped. I was cold with goosebumps, and I could not think. It was straight out of a horror movie. I jumped back into bed, covering my head with my pillow, afraid to scream. A minute passed, and I was shivering when a pounding on the back door woke my dad up. But when he went there, no one was there. Dad came into my room to check on me, and I said, "I'm afraid." Dad said it's just some kids most likely doing Halloween pranks. I knew this wasn't a Halloween prank. The man was taunting us. As Dad tried to calm me while sitting on the edge of my bed, we heard a blood-curdling scream. It was Mom! Dad ran from the room back to his bedroom, and Michael Myers stood at the foot of the bed. He was standing there holding a knife, staring at Mom. Dad yelled to me, "Call the police!" and he charged into the room with just his bare fists. I could hear the fight as Dad and the costumed intruder battled in the dark. Then all went silent. Police sirens could be heard coming down the street. I stayed hidden until the police were inside. Dad had a nasty cut, and his head was bleeding. Mom was unharmed but saved Dad's life by hitting the intruder with a flower vase. The man in the mask escaped the same way he entered Mom and Dad's room, through the sliding glass door that wasn't locked. The police called in a K-9 unit and searched the neighborhood but never got a scent to follow. It was my last trick or treat. I still wonder if it was the same man in the Michael Myers costume who tried to snatch me at the church, or just a coincidence of two Michael Myers costumed men. I still keep the secret that the man who grabbed me at the church was in the same costume. I didn't tell mom or dad or even say to the police. At 10 years old, I was in 5th grade. It was the first year my mom let me and another girl from the neighborhood go trick-or-treating on our own. I had been begging for this for a long time. I just wanted to feel bigger like my brother who was 14. He'd been going trick-or-treating with his friends since he was 10. Anyway, Molly and I planned our costumes to be really cute, not scary. We wanted to be princesses. We had beautiful dresses and tiaras. We had fancy Halloween bags, not pillowcases, because we wanted to be elegant. We planned our route to maximize our candy haul, considering which houses had given the best treats in previous years. Because it was a Saturday night, we could stay out until 9, when Beggars Night officially ended in our town. Molly came over for dinner and for us to dress together to enable us to be on the street at dusk at the event's start. We ate in our costumes and practiced our curtsy when we said trick or treat. We were well prepared to impress our neighbors. Our route took us a bit further away from the high-trafficked areas that most of the kids were taking so that we could get to the bigger homes that we knew would reward our efforts with chocolate bars, not just bubblegum. The shortcut was darker than our street, and only a few houses were on it. Still, we decided to take advantage of opportunities to score candy, so we rang the bells. It was the second house on this route, and it was a little way up a driveway that we rang the second doorbell. The door opened immediately as if he had been waiting for us. I don't know his age, but my dad may be a little older. I couldn't tell. Well, he was like, "Hey, you two look adorable. What are your names? I haven't seen you two before. Are you from around here? Where are your parents? Is it just the two of you out together tonight?" It was just a ton of questions. We tried to be proper princesses and answer politely, but honestly, we just wanted the candy and to get to the next house. He started complimenting our costumes even more and trying to be conversational. Then in a friendly voice, he said, "I have a scary skeleton in the closet. Would you like to meet him? He has a box of candy. You can take as much as you want. Come inside." Molly and I looked at each other, and I could tell she had the same willies I had. This guy was creepy. So I politely said we couldn't enter any houses tonight. It is my dad's rule and I cannot break it. He said that he understood and that he would bring candy to us. We said thank you and gave our curtsy. He quickly added, "Are you sure you don't want to come in just to pick out the candies you like?" We said no thank you. "What you select for us will be appreciated," he returned with a soft, chewy kind of candy that was twisted in a paper wrapper. It looked so unappealing, but we thanked him with another curtsy and ran along our way. As we went up the street, we saw the man standing at the end of his driveway watching us. So we skipped 2 houses and went to the last one on the street. It was an old lady with a warm smile. She came to the door with a bowl of candies in her hand. We thanked her with a curtsy and told her she was a queen compared to the man down the street, who was super creepy. She said she did not know that man and had been on this street for many years, but we should be sure to tell our parents when we get home. Going down her driveway, we met 2 friends from school heading back to our neighborhood. We warned them about the man 3 houses down, and they said they were already there, and he wanted to show them a monkey he had in a cage who would give them all the candy they wanted. He gave them some yucky-looking candy they just threw in the gutter. We decided to do the same, dug in our candy sacks, found them, and threw them into the gutter. It seemed the same thing to do. If anyone was going to poison some candy, it was that man who was our thought. As we continued our route, we discussed if that man was just a guy trying to have fun with us on Beggars Night or if he had intentions to kidnap or kill us or something terrible. Our question was answered before we got home. As we returned to our neighborhood via the same shortcut, we saw 6 police cruisers with their light flashing outside the creep's house. The Sunday paper said he was captured with 2 13-year-old girls tied up in the basement. A couple of boys saw them go in, and when they did not come out in a reasonable time, they called the cops on their cell phone. The candy was being tested, and all parents were warned to look for the wrapped candy in their children's bags. It was suspected that it was laced with a tranquilizer. The story also said that many children had reported that he had invited them in to see a puppy or a newborn kitten. He obviously attempted to lure kids in with different ploys. Be careful on Beggars Night. Be smart and have fun. When I was 21, I got a job in Chicago. 2 other girls from my class from the University of Illinois also got hired by the same company. So it only made sense for us to rent a house together. We found a lovely bungalow in a more historic area of Oak Park that would be only a short commute to our work. It's a cute neighborhood of mostly well-kept homes. It had 2 bedrooms on the main floor, a full bath, and a small room with a half bath on the second. I got a small room which was perfect for me. I liked having my own space. It felt really private and amazingly quiet, even when the other 2 girls had the TV in the living room. We were all moved in by early September and getting comfortable with work in Oak Park by October. What was great about Oak Park, and our neighborhood in particular, was the enthusiasm everyone had for Beggars Night. Hillary and I were huge Beggars Night fans, and Mariel wasn't far behind. But this year, Beggars Night fell on a Tuesday, so we didn't do much for decorations but carved 3 pumpkins with our own personalities reflected in their crazy faces and put a candle inside, which we placed on the front of the house for the trick-or-treaters to know we were home with candies to dispense. At dusk, the doorbell began to ring, and we had dozens of kids in costume. We must have given out 100 candy bars. Our faces were painted as tigers, and we growled at the kids when they approached the door. They'd scream, grab a candy bar, and run to the next house. We had the best time. By 9 o'clock, the street was again empty of kids, and we were exhausted and energized in the same breath. We were too psyched to go to bed, but too tired to go to a party we had been invited to. We decided it would be fun just to go to the park and walk in the fall air. The trees were in color with their leaves raining down on the trail. The park is large and has a beautiful path around a pond. There is a golf course, a football field, and a baseball diamond. It's a big park, and at night it is peaceful, and the cool air feels great. We were still playing since we had our tiger faces. We just walked and laughed, pouncing from every rock, tree, and bench. The night breeze feels and smells different on Halloween. I think the nostalgia of childhood gives you a euphoric feeling of happiness. But that euphoric feeling was about to come crashing down. 5 figures stepped abruptly out of the dark to block our path. They were in full costume of skeletons from Johnny Depp's Pirates of the Caribbean. They did not speak, but they were moving in such a way it indicated they intended something terrible. We were in real danger. They were slowly encircling us and laughing under their breath as they had captured 3 animals. I fingered my pepper spray, which I always carry, and Hillary produced a whistle that hung under her shirt. I had no idea she wore such a thing. She put it to her lips and let out a screech to wake the dead. I screamed. I've got mace and held my arms straight toward them. They nodded to each other and disappeared back into the darkness. Trying not to freak out, we slowly backed up and ran, not stopping until we reached the street. We were lucky our encounter didn't lead to a greater confrontation. Those men would have indeed won 5 against 3, and being big men besides. But we would not have gone down without a fight. We did not look back, but walked quickly home and locked the doors. We closed the drapes and turned the lights off just in case we had been followed. After a while, we settled down, and our heart rates returned to normal. We were so scared. We were in real danger in the park, and we knew it. It wasn't a prank or a couple of guys trying to spook us. They had evil intent. We were grateful to be home, and it was late, so we each went to our room. Mine is on the 2nd floor with a small window overlooking the front of the house. As I slipped into my nightgown, I went to open the window for a little breeze and fresh air to sleep. And to my horror, the 5 skeletons were smashing our 3 still-lit pumpkins in the street. I ran downstairs and got Hillary and Mariel. We grabbed what weapons we could find: a kitchen knife, a 2-foot pipe left by a plumber, and an iron skillet. We huddled in the living room in the dark and peeked out the front window. The 5 men in costume stood in the center of the empty street with our pumpkins smashed around their feet. They were even more eerie in the orange glow of the street lamp. Mariel said we should call the police, but Hillary said, yeah, right? And told them some guys in costume were smashing our pumpkins in the road on Beggars Night. Do you think they'll come? We sat terrified for 30 minutes when they seemed to tire of taunting us and left. We double-checked that all the windows and doors were locked and went to bed, each with our weapon ready. Morning finally came, and we woke up and got ready for work. We all agreed over breakfast of coffee that the men from Halloween were just trying to scare us and meant no harm. It eased our tension, and we prepared to leave the house. But a hand-scrawled note fell to the stoop when we opened the front door. Hillary picked it up and read, "Happy Halloween," with a smiley face. But what it said next made us tremble and brought back the actual fear we felt in the park and at home that night. It read, "You are lucky, but maybe not next time."